June 22nd, 2012. A crowd gathers in Calgary, Alberta for the unveiling of an impressive new work of public art. It has been 4 years in the making, and the premiere is coinciding with the 100th anniversary of the Calgary Stampede.
As you know, today is an exciting culmination of one of the greatest projects ever at the greatest outdoor show on earth. A spectacular piece of artwork that has been 4 years in the making. 4 years of dedication by two amazing artists, Roenisch and Spaith. This beautiful bronze not only symbolizes our Western heritage, but it also celebrates the spirit of our city, our province, and indeed, Canada.
By the banks of the Bow. This inspiring, heroic-sized bronze sculpture is one of the largest public art installations in North America. 15 horses and 2 cowboys, blending historical and modern-day images that reflects the spirit of Calgary, from the influence of the Bow River to the significant role of the cowboy and the free spirit of the Western horse.
We wanted to make something that was going to spur the imagination, be exciting.
A piece like this, yes, it's involved with horses, but it's about bigger things. They become a metaphor for more than a group of horses being trailed to the Stampede.
So Bob, what are we looking at here?
Memories. This was the original concept, and this was the horse gathering concept. But it's a start, and it basically shows you, how you go about just figuring out what you're going to do with your space. This is obviously a horse and rider, and I guess he must have been coming out of the water.
In 2008, the Calgary Stampede Public Art Committee received the initial funding to create an iconic sculpture, a must-see destination for the city of Calgary and the Calgary Stampede.
It was actually a private, anonymous donation, which is wonderful that there's individuals in Calgary that believe in public art to that extent. We are a Western Heritage and Values organization, so to us, Western art is really the heart and soul of the type of art that we like.
So we started with the history of the horse and the importance of the horse, and eventually the whole synergy of the animal and the strength of the animal in building our Western heritage.
It was agreed to follow our history, and many years ago our broncs came from the Stampede Ranch, and they were herded from the ranch to the Calgary Stampede rodeo grounds, and that meant crossing the Bow River.
With determining the direction of the sculpture, the Stampede Public Art Committee approached 2 well-established Alberta-born artists, Roenisch and Spaith, to take on the massive project.
We had to have artists that understood the importance of getting it right. And those 2 fellows, we felt, as the Public Art Committee, they really understood what it meant to see a horse in motion, to see a horse standing in water.
All these sculptures, you have to approach them just visually and ask yourself, what is happening? What is going on? And then hopefully the piece, if it's of any value, will start talking to you and telling you a story.
You don't have a lightning bolt of inspiration regarding anything. It's a problem-solving situation. Rich did the front end, and he was having trouble thinking about how the history should be leading the piece. I came up with a quotation from Margaret Lawrence, look forward into the past and back into the future until the silence.
With a vision and design in place, the 2 artists plow forward in 2 directions. Rich into the past, and Bob into the future.
We did a conceptual sized piece, which is small. You're not worried about the detail or anything, just the shape. Then we went to this size where a maquette, but big enough that you can get the musculature and you can see more and you can get a little more refined. And a lot of times the next step would make one about a 1/3 life size. And then you go from enlarging that to the big one.
Rich and Bob are working in Kalispell, Montana, where the sculpture is being cast in the ancient lost wax method at Kalispell Art Casting.
Well, it's 15 life and a quarter size horses, so it's a pretty large project. I think we're estimating close to 15 tons of metal.
Their work at the foundry comes after years of preparation and planning, as well as collaborating, ensuring that each horse and rider is proportionally and anatomically correct.
We calculated about a 7-step process, starting with the mold.
What we have is called split molds. We have 2 plaster halves with your blanket of rubber in the middle, and that's where all your pieces that we're going to cast are, that I pour wax into.
A wax pattern is made from the mold that is then chased and gated. An artisan meticulously removes any imperfections on the pattern.
And then the wax pattern is dipped in a silica solution, which creates a ceramic type shell around the wax. The wax is then melted out, and the molten bronze is poured into the shell, kind of more or less replaces the wax.
During the metal casting phase, bronze ingots are heated up to 2100 degrees Fahrenheit, allowing the molten bronze to be poured into the hollow shells. These are then allowed to cool and solidify. Each section will be welded together to make up the final sculpture. Now comes the hard part, making the pieces fit back together. Rich and Bob both supervise the process, helping the foundry workers in their own individual ways.
Some artists like to have a very personal relationship with us during the casting process, and some like to leave it all up to us and just come in at the end.
Okay, so then looking from the side here, we got the top.
The quality of Rich and Bob's artwork is not the only aspect that will ensure By the Banks of the Bow will stand the test of time.
Between the cement and
It's that much.
Okay.
Engineer Norm Webster supervises the construction of a stainless steel internal structure to support the sculpture.
The bronze actually is very strong, but because of the shapes, it can actually create some concentrations in load. And really the purpose of all that framing is to transfer wind loads and the weight of the structure from the skin of the structure itself down into the concrete foundation that's going to sit on.
With the pieces welded together with great care and attention to alignment, the sculpture is ready for chasing or cleaning to remove any sign of welding or casting defects. Metal chasing usually starts with large electrical or pneumatic grinders to remove the bulk of the unwanted metal. Then, more refined and smaller tools such as die and pencil grinders are used to recreate the artist's subtle surface textures. Once this is complete, the sculpture is sandblasted and ready for patination. Patination is enhancement of bronze by the chemical application of color. 3 water-soluble compounds form the basis for most patinas. The patiner heats the bronze with a propane torch, and the patina is applied with a brush. The liquid is evaporated by the heat, leaving a distinct look. After the patina is applied, the sculpture is sealed with a wax coat and/or lacquer to enhance and preserve the patina. April 2012. The base for the sculpture By the Banks of the Bow begins to take shape outside the agriculture building on Stampede Park. As the horses were completed in Kalispell, they were carefully and securely transported and stored in Calgary. Workers safely load the pieces onto trucks to transport them to the site. Over the course of several weeks, each horse will be meticulously set into place on the base. It is expected that the public will be closely interacting with the sculpture, so the utmost precautions need to be taken. Rich's centerpiece of Stampede legend Clem Gardner, amidst 5 horses, is being placed on an elevated base. Norm Webster carefully monitors the placement of the 8,000-pound piece.
These ones will be bolted down. Anchor bolts will be preset. All of the other horses will be held in by pre-drilled holes, and there will be pegs at the bottom of the horses, and those go into the holes. They're just epoxied in.
It is June 19th, 2012. The unveiling will occur in 3 days.
If you're worth your salt, you've created something that they're going to just like instinctually. You know, they may not know why, but you know, that's what our job is. And hopefully we've done something like that.
It is a testimonial to those men and women who created the Calgary Stampede. It is a symbol of Western hospitality, a symbol of a handshake honesty, of tenacity and perseverance, and the symbol of a city a place where anyone who has a dream can see it come true. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with tremendous amount of anticipation and pride that we unveil By the Banks of the Bow.
The sculpture stands proud at the center of Stampede Park. The inclusion of a gold theme on the manes and tails of the 5 rear modernistic horses are an abstract reference to the trail of gold that is held in high regard by the rodeo competitors.
This will be the center point of this park for the next 100 years. Long after all of us are gone, people will still come up and rub this horse's nose and feel this is what the Old West was all about, what the Canadian West was all about.
When I see the execution and the final result being so outstanding that I guess it really underscores to me the strength of what we do as a not-for-profit organization, doing good things in the community